Cold and mysterious, why do strange things happen in the Alaska Triangle? Welcome to Haunted Road Media's Friday Night Ghost Frights. I'm author and ghost historian Mike Ricksecker. Explore with us. The Alaska Triangle is an area in Alaska from Juneau to Anchorage to Barrow, which is known for strange disappearances, anomalies, and supernatural activity. In any given year, 500 to 2,000 people go missing in Alaska, a total of 16,000 since 1988. Like the Bermuda Triangle, the Alaska Triangle seems to harness the Earth's energy grid to create a vortex of mystery and a possible portal into another dimension, affecting planes, boats, people, and more. On January 26, 1950, 2 hours after a Douglas C-54D airplane took off from Elmendorf Air Force Base, it disappeared without a trace. The weather called for mostly clear skies, and there was no reason to suspect anything was wrong with its final radio contact at 1:09 p.m. However, at the very edge of the Alaska Triangle, near a snag in Yukon Territory, Canada, it disappeared. No wreckage or survivors were ever found. A massive joint U.S. and Canadian search commenced, covering over 350,000 square miles with 7,000 people involved and costing the equivalent of $10 million in today's dollars. Yet, with all of this effort, nothing of the missing airplane was ever found. Oddly, on March 1st, a Canadian plane crashed near Snag in the same area in which the Douglas had gone missing. They were found relatively quickly, and the crew only sustained light injuries. So, what happened to the C-54D Douglas? Some people believe that the Douglas aircraft went missing as a result of UFO activity. Alaska is a prime location for UFO sightings, and 3 were reported before and after the Douglas aircraft went missing. One of these was near Kodiak just 3 days prior to the disappearance, and another was just 2 days after at Elmendorf Air Force Base. During the search operation, cryptic radio messages were received, but it was difficult to discern the message they were trying to convey. Many believe these messages were from the crew of the missing Douglas C-54D, yet just as quickly as the transmission started, they stopped. Some believe the high electromagnetic activity in the Alaska Triangle opened a portal into another dimension through which the plane passed through. The radio transmissions are said to be coming from this other dimension. While this may seem far-fetched to some, it's not as crazy as it sounds. First of all, Bruce Gernon reported flying through a similar type of vortex in the Bermuda Triangle, in a flight that routinely took him 120 minutes to make, only took him about 90. Secondly, I believe I've heard sound from another dimension during one of our paranormal investigations. While this may be a shadow person story, I believe it's pertinent to this discussion. Those that have been watching this channel a long time are familiar with this story, but one time when we were investigating a restaurant called Johnny V's in Muskogee, Oklahoma, we were just finishing up. I was taking a last photo sweep of the restaurant. A couple guys were upstairs in the bar. A couple people were out in the dining room area. I was walking through the main doors to the kitchen when I suddenly saw a shadow dart right across the room and blow right through the side door to the kitchen. And you heard the bam slam of the door. However, the door didn't move. And this was just a flimsy little metal door that waiters and waitresses walked through with large trays of food. So I called out to the others to ask if they had heard the same as I, and they had. So what does this have to do with the Alaska Triangle and dimensions? Well, I've created a diagram for my book, A Walk in the Shadows, that depicts what I believe happened here, that I was on one plane of existence, and this shadow person, whoever it may have been, was on another plane of existence. And when I walked into that room, it saw me perhaps as a ghost, as another shadow figure, I don't know. But it got scared and it took off on its plane of existence and blew right through that door, and that door probably opened. But I didn't see it on mine because I'm on a different plane of existence, a different dimension. But sound works on a different wavelength and perhaps is able to cross these dimensions differently than we're able to actually see physical form. So therefore, I was able to hear this sound from one dimension into another, echoing throughout. And this is how those radio transmissions could have been heard from that Douglas airplane from another dimension. And one of the crazier stories that happened while I was living here in Alaska, this used to be a Safeway back here, some sort of education center now. It used to be like a strip of stores inside and all that. It's totally different now. A plane taking off from the airport, all of a sudden, the engine, one of its engines just dropped right off the plane. Parts of the wing went flying off in different directions. From the flight safety report, the flight crew reported a huge yaw. The number 2 throttle slammed to its aft stop. The number 2 reverser indication showed thrust reverser deployment, and the number 2 electrical bus failed. Several witnesses on the ground reported that the airplane experienced several severe pitch and roll oscillations before the engine separated. Sounds like Alaska Triangle mischief to me. So some of the apartments over there got nailed with debris from the wing, and then back over here in the back of fortunately in the back of the parking lot, nobody was hurt. That's where the engine fell, back there. So that happened in 1993. Crazy stuff. I'm telling you, up here in Alaska, you never know what in the world you're gonna get. It's nuts. The unfortunate event that really gave the Alaska Triangle its notoriety was the disappearance of a plane in 1972 carrying the United States House Majority Leader Hale Boggs, Alaska Congressman Nick Begich, aide Russell Brown, and pilot Don Johns. The largest search and rescue mission in U.S. history to that point was launched, spanning an area of 325,000 square miles and more than 3,600 hours of search time. Nothing was ever found. They completely disappeared. Of course, there are some who chalk this up to another tragedy of the Alaska Triangle's strange activity, and it was lost within the vortex. There are others who think the disappearance was part of a conspiracy theory against Hale Boggs, who dissented against the Warren Commission, the investigation into the John F. Kennedy assassination, which ruled the death was caused by a single bullet. Perhaps what really happened was a little bit of both the conspiracy theory and the effects of the triangle. What may be even scarier is the time a nuclear bomb was lost in the Alaska Triangle. In 1950, a B-36 bomber taking off from Eielson Air Force Base near Fairbanks, Alaska, had to jettison its Mark IV nuclear bomb over the Pacific Ocean when the plane began to malfunction. As the engines began to give out, the 17-member crew parachuted from the plane to assumed safety. The B-36 had been set on autopilot with a course set out into the open ocean, but it veered from this course and crashed into Mount Colleget in British Columbia. 12 of the 17 crew members were recovered, but 5 were never found, and the bomb is still lost. These are just a handful of strange occurrences with airplanes over the years within the Alaska Triangle, and doesn't even start to touch on similar strange occurrences that have happened with boats, people, UFO sightings, the volatility of the land, and more. And for more strange tales like this, please check out our other videos off to the side. I'm Mike Ricksecker. Until next Friday night.